Pat yourself on the back because you are right here, right now, for a reason. Welcome to the On Purpose podcast, where together we will empower ourselves and others to live lives with more passion and purpose. How you doing this morning, Jared?
I'm great, my friend. I'm great. You?
I'm great as well.
Yeah?
Yeah, feeling good.
Feeling good. Got a little fresh snow out there for this morning. It's kind of nice just to wake up and see that. It's so peaceful.
Mm-hmm. Without it being blistering cold.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think without that wind.
Yeah.
You get up and you're just like, oh, it's so nice. And I'm always amazed at how bright snow makes the day.
Yeah.
Like, it's still dark out, but you can see everything. So, yeah, man, I'm feeling good. We're episode 96 today.
96. That's consistency over time, baby.
I know. You know what's fun is when you start seeing things pay off. You know, and for all you out in our community, there's been plenty of times where we're like, man, we just don't know. Like, with everything that's happened over the 2 years we've been going almost now.
Yeah.
But when you just stay the course, and even if you don't know where the outcome's going to go, but you continue to show up, just put in hard work, you're going to end up a different place than you were.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It all makes it worth it for me anytime that someone from our community reaches out and lets me know that an episode impacted them in a positive way. And I'll be surprised sometimes. Like my neighbor, he's been my neighbor for nearly 2 years now, and it was just a few weeks ago where he's like, man, I've been listening to the podcast, and this episode really made me think. And I was just like, what? I had no idea you listened to the podcast. So I love hearing feedback from, getting feedback from the community, because it definitely helps make this process even more enjoyable than it already is.
Yeah, and I think that's important for people to realize is you don't always know the impact you're making.
Yep.
But you got to continue to show up and put your best foot forward, because somewhere someone is watching what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you doing it that day may be just the thing they needed to get over whatever was holding them back in life.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the analogies that you use at trials with kids looking at you.
Yeah.
And,
You saw it firsthand. Remember that time you guys started running and people were super tired because they thought they were already done for practice, and they were running, but then all of a sudden all the little kids from the other room came in and started high-fiving you guys on the edge of the mat, and all of a sudden we were running faster.
Mm-hmm.
What changed? You were still just as tired, supposedly.
Yeah.
Just as low energy. But then, then there are people watching. I better get my ass going because I don't want to look like the guy's letting them down.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's always someone watching you.
Always. And it should be you watching you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, let's be honest. It's great for me to work hard when you're watching me, but to be elite, to be who I'm supposed to be, I got to work that hard when I'm watching me.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Which is what's so awesome about this community is people do watch us, because we've been here now almost for 2 straight years. And, it feels good to be like, dude, we got to keep showing up because somewhere somebody needs something today.
Yeah.
So, and we got to do a better job of sharing some of this. Like we get it, and then I'll forget to share it on social media. So our community, we'll get better at sharing some of the stuff you guys don't necessarily hear.
Like community stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been strictly kind of just sharing the episode content, but yeah, like you were talking about today
all the time.
on Rashid Smith's post from the gym of him wearing his OPP shirt for his walkout. I thought that was awesome.
I mean, think about that. He's getting ready to go out and do a cage fight, which is terrifying in itself.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a huge goal he had. And for me, man, like everything I'd wear out to the cage had a purpose, right? It reminded me of something that was very important to me. And for him to wear our shirt out there, of all the things that are important to him,
mm-hmm.
the podcast is something he wanted to represent because it puts him in the right frame of mind to be his best.
Yeah, that was a huge honor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so all right, so as we move in, year number 2 starts somewhere in March. We'll have to look at the exact date.
Yeah.
We'll get better at doing that. We promise you.
Indeed.
So what we're going to do today, Ollie, this is going to be a fun one.
Yeah. So a little contrast from a recent episode. This is episode 96, The Purpose of Low Vibes. So I think that we can all agree there's no escaping, at least completely, negative emotions, negative people, negative vibes in the world. I mean, we turn on the news and that's their primary product is negative vibes, right? Your fear, your anxiety, all these things. So in our world, we need to learn how to navigate around low vibrational energy, mainly emotions and energy that will eventually lead to some sort of suffering. I think I said this in the High Vibe episode, that the Dalai Lama says that we are all the same in a sense, as human beings are all trying to add more happiness to their life and less suffering to their life. So I think this is an important episode for us to also explore of how to navigate and handle low vibes.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where you go with this one.
I'm interested to see where you go with this one.
Well, I don't think I'll surprise you much, man, to be honest. No, I don't think so. So first off, what would you say, like, what do you believe is the purpose of the low vibrations? Why do we even have those?
Yeah. I think life is, everything in life is balanced, right? There's dark and light, there's good and evil, yin and yang. And that without the low vibes, there's no contrast for the good vibes.
Yeah.
So really in the low vibes, there's a lot of lessons. There's a lot of lessons. There's a lot of growth. In pain and suffering, there's growth. You know, there's a really great book that I like called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Yeah.
By Mark Manson. And in one of the chapters, he talks about how whatever you're doing in your life, there's going to be the shit. He uses the term, it's a pretty vulgar book. So he says, whatever you do, you have to eat shit in life. The thing is that you have to find the shit that you're okay with eating.
Yep.
You know, so if you're, essentially what he's trying to say is that there's hard work and monotony in anything that you're trying to achieve. And I think that with that comes low vibes. And what are low vibes, right? It can be anger, fear, jealousy, envy. I think we posted a link to, and it's definitely on our Instagram page of kind of the chart of vibration. If it's not, we'll go back and repost that. But I think the the purpose of low vibes, in a nutshell, is growth. Is growth. To have these low vibrate. That's the purpose, right? However, we don't always do things with purpose and intention. So sometimes the danger of low vibes is sometimes you won't learn the lesson. And sometimes you're just going to circulate and spin in these.
You're going to stay there.
You're going to stay there.
Yeah, and that's funny because I wrote down, to me, the purpose of low vibes is transition. Right? It's transition, it's recharge, it's to create focus. Okay. And I don't think it's necessarily bad to be low vibration. I think it's bad to stay low vibration. And for me, I will tell you, like you just said it today. When we walked in, you're like, dude, you seem so peaceful lately. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, I feel more peaceful. And why is that? Because my kids are kind of finding their way now. They're getting on solid foot. Because I was really worried about, like, what kind of world is there for my kids? Like, are they supposed to go to college, not go to college? Like, what we do? Because for all my life of parenting, I had answers. But all what we're going through now is unprecedented. So I don't have answers either. I'm learning right alongside of them. So I would say for a lot of this past year, my vibration has not been as high as normal. But I think that's okay. Because I was in transition. Right? So like all the stuff I had known and all the stability that had allowed me to have high vibrations for many years, we had taken away through retirement, through kids graduating, kids moving away, the pandemic, the business issues. So I think it was okay to be like not as high vibration, not as peaceful because everything was moving around me. But I think the issue is when you stay there. Right? And I think as we go through this and we talk about people that we resonate, that strike our chord as like, man, that's a low vibration person. Well, at some point in their life, I bet they weren't. Something happened that caused a change and they never regrouped and bounced back from it. Right? Because you think about, just like you said, yin and yang, how do I have high vibrations if I never experienced low vibrations?
Right.
And how is just like the one episode we did on toxic positivity. Right? What's genuine positivity is when you see them sometimes they're like, dude, it's a fucking shitty day. And you're like, oh, what, they had a shitty day too? They're human. So to me, that's what the purpose of low vibration is to recharge, to transition, and to focus you.
I like that. I haven't really thought of it as transition. So let me ask you this, Jared.
Mm-hmm.
Does transition always equal growth?
No, sometimes it don't, right? If we're making changes that we know are bad for ourselves, addictions, unhealthy relationships, lack of boundaries, risk without calculating the reward, it doesn't always equal to growth. But the fact you made that transition, gained that experience, if you examine why you did what you did, how you ended up where you ended up, you could eventually have growth. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's necessarily inherent that one equals the other. I think it's a process.
Yeah, definitely. You can be transitioning on the upward or downward. Okay.
Or by not growing, you're transitioning. Right? Think about it. If you're not growing, nobody stays the same.
Right.
Right? Like how do a lot of people that were athletic end up so grossly overweight?
Yeah.
Well, they quit working out. And they just didn't go from like, I quit working out on Tuesday and Wednesday I was overweight. Slowly over time, they weren't growing physically. They weren't growing like how they had been. So they were going backwards. Mm-hmm. Right? So I think, and that's where I challenge people in today's day and age. There's no status quo. You're never the same.
Right.
You either grew today through experiences, relationships, learning, or you digressed.
Yeah. And I think for everybody, there's always, you kind of have your average baseline, right? Like I'm really grateful to be able to say I consider myself a very high vibrational person. Mm-hmm. For the most part, I'm going to be feeling joy and gratitude and at peace and uplifting those around me. And I like being in that vibration. But like you said, it's a contrast. You know, in my younger years, I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of these low vibrations for many years. And I was able to do things to help me transition into being a more high vibrational person more consistently.
Yeah.
So what do you think about those people that we just, you feel they have this low vibe, negative energy people that frankly that you don't want to be around? We all have those type of people like, oh God, they came in the room. We don't want to be around them. For you, are those type of people that you think, people like you and I, people like in our community, that we should try and help lift their vibe? And if so, how do we do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. But I'll preface that question with a question. Is if they're in your life, I would ask, how did they get there?
Okay.
Right? Like, so like for you example, like even last week on Wednesday, I can't remember how it went, but we ended up on a phone call we normally don't do on Wednesdays. Like, I can't remember if I texted you or I just called you out of the blue or you called me. And I was like, what's up? And you were literally like, dude, it's not a good day.
Yeah.
My body's beat down. I don't feel, my energy's low. Like, I don't, right? You were having
low
a low vibe day. And what did I tell you? Take the day off, dude. Mm-hmm. You don't have to come to the gym today. You don't have to go, like, I literally told you, take the day off and go do something with Courtney that she wants to do. Because you've been spending so much time away from her getting ready for a fight with all the business stuff. And then later that night, you're back to where you were.
Yeah.
But I think that is a microcosm for how this works, right? Like on a day you're not feeling good, you talk to somebody and it helps you feel better. Mm-hmm. You don't just sit and push everybody away. You don't sit and isolate and let Wednesday become Thursday and Thursday become Friday. And that's that transition I'm talking about. The low vibe is okay. Mm-hmm. It's just not okay to stay there for long periods of time. Mm-hmm. And it's not okay to do it and isolate yourself. If you're normally a social person, you reach out and talk to somebody else, right? Or ask questions like, dude, I don't know, I just feel off today.
Yeah.
And when you share that, usually it's going to work out in your favor.
Yeah, which thank you, by the way. That was a
That's
huge
just what we
help that
do.
day. That is what we do.
You know what I mean? You do the same for me. How many times have I called you? Like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing right now. What the hell? You're like, dude, quit watching the news. I'm like, fuck, I was watching the news.
That'll get you. So that's a great example there, and you're absolutely right. I think we always come back to the circle of five, how important that is to the
Huge.
people around you. So now let's talk about a person that is consistently in there that maybe, for community members, maybe you can't avoid them. Like
Yeah.
it's your coworker that you got to see every day that you're going into work, or it's a family member, and that's just their baseline vibe. Of like most of the time they're negative, they're low vibrational. What do you do in that circumstance when it's not just going to be, a phone call and
Sure.
a couple talks? What do you think we were meant to do there?
And that's a tough one. I think there's two different groups, right? Coworkers, you didn't necessarily pick.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to be around them. I think we've all worked around people we just don't generally enjoy being around. Like they just drag you down. So I think you got to be very cognizant of putting limits on how much space you give them in your life.
Yeah.
How much time you spend around. Do you, if you're going out for a coffee, maybe they don't get the invite. And then the other thing is I think we're really missing is being honest with people. And, most people don't wake up every day going to be like, I want to be low vibration. I want to drag everybody else down around me.
Right.
But it happens. And how does it happen? And so to me, if you look, man, like a lot of my businesses and stuff revolve around bringing in people that need help with their vibration, whether they know that or not. It's about uplifting people and getting people back on the path to who they could be if only they would believe in it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, those people are critical to get back in there because at some point they had dreams. And at some point they wanted to be better than they are right now. And maybe you taking a little time and being honest with them is what sparks that
Huge.
that fire again, or leading by example, right? One of the things I'd always challenge cops on, because police work's greatly toxic,
Yeah.
is I would challenge them, like, why are you here? I mean, like, literally, I just sat around you for 10 minutes. You complained the whole time. Like, why don't you just quit and go get another job? Well, I need this. Well, then, do you remember when you first started? And I used to do this exercise all the time. Do you remember when you first started? Tell me all the reasons why you were excited about this job. And they would list all these things. I just write them up on the whiteboard, all these things. And I would ask them, and these trainings would have brand new people all the way up to 20-plus year veterans. And I'd be like, okay, which one of these things that were exciting at the beginning no longer apply? And they would be like, well, they're all still here. I was like, oh, okay. So all the things that got you excited about this job are still available to you. And they'd be like, yeah. And I go, so what changed? You changed. Just the way you view things changed.
Mm.
So if we change how we view things, we could find happiness in it again. But I think we shy away from telling people that.
Yeah.
And we want to blame everything on somebody else, when the reality is, dude, our lives are pretty good. Right? Like Gary Vee talks about all the time, the odds of just being a human.
Right.
And then the odds of being born in America, no matter what you think, it's a great place to live.
Yeah.
And when you start looking at those odds and then you wake up and you're pissed off that, the Wi-Fi isn't super fast at your work, or, this is shit that we allow to ruin our days. It's pretty, if we frame it right, we'd be pretty blessed. Which is why when we talk about gratitudes and stuff, that starts to change that vibrational level. It starts to change where your energy is, because instead of looking at what you don't have, you're grateful for what you do have. Simple thing for me, going up to Wyoming to work on our property the last couple weeks. Dude, when I'm back in Fort Collins, every day when I wake up, the first thing I'm grateful for is to wake up in a house that has heat and shelter.
Amen.
Because when I'm up there, dude, sometimes the heater goes out and I wake up and it's like literally colder inside than it is outside.
Jeez. Yeah.
But how did I get grateful for that? Well, I go experience what it's like to not have it for a night.
Yeah.
And realize, like, dude, it's pretty nice to hit my thermostat and not once worry about, I wake up and the house is warm.
Yeah, there's that contrast again.
But you can't experience it. You can't know it unless you experience it.
Right.
So to me, family, friends, coworkers, I think if we're truly high vibrational and when we're moving at our optimal, our job is to bring them with us
Yeah.
and to help them see. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to drag you with me.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to let you see what's possible. And then at some point, you got to take some steps to keep up with me. Otherwise, our paths will diverge.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you hit a key point there is when you said if you're truly high vibrational, and it really depends on where you're at. You know, if you're Jesus Christ, right, walking the earth, any low vibe human being you come across, you're uplifting their vibe.
Yeah.
You know, because you're Jesus.
That's what you're supposed
right?
to do.
That's what you're meant to do. You know, your vibe. You're one of the most prolific people that's ever walked the earth. Like that's what you do. However, if you're a regular human, but hey, you have a high vibe. You're a positive person. You need to be aware of how this person's energy and vibration is affecting you. If you start to find after some time that a little bit of them is rubbing off of you,
Goes a long way.
yeah, you need to separate yourself.
Yeah.
However, I think the things that you said, honesty, being honest with people, challenge goes a long way, and then not affirming their negativity.
For sure.
Because that can be easy to do if like, you know, people like to gossip.
Yeah.
Right, you come together and you want to talk shit about something or someone. Like, that's what we always do with the news, and you know, don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Principle 1 in my favorite book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. When we can truly live that, and you refuse to criticize anything, condemn anything, or complain about anything, you're high vibe.
Why is that?
All the time.
It just frees up time to see what you have.
Mm-hmm.
Think about if you think about your thinking as time allotment. You have 24 hours today. And if you spend 8 hours condemning, complaining, and criticizing, it's 8 hours you didn't grow.
Yeah.
Because nobody grows from that.
You actually
You go to
down.
opposite.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
You decrease.
But so why do people do it? It's easy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to get lulled into that. So no, to me, I think I would challenge our community, you know, and like Martha in one of her latest emails was starting another group to help people through some grief and stuff. Like that's what we do as people that are a little more in tune to where are we at with things. Where are we personally at and how are we growing? We help others grow. And we help others find their growth.
Yeah.
And the true challenge there is not to try to make people grow like we grow.
Right.
But to help them grow like they're supposed to grow and to let them realize it's still possible. I don't care how old you are, what kind of career you had, didn't have, mistakes you've made or didn't make. It is all still possible.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes, Jared, the way that we do that is not by trying to help the other person do something. It's simply by just vibing at the highest level that you can and being the absolute best that you can be. Some people that you love and care about that are in your closest circle will never reach their full potential until you reach yours.
Yep, absolutely.
As a leader, some people reaching their fullest potential is dependent on you reaching yours first.
Yep.
And sometimes that's all it takes is if you're so high vibrational and you're crushing your goals, people around you, like you said, people are watching and they'll begin to emulate you sometimes without you even taking the time to focus on them and try and see what their needs are.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, it's so important for that first step to be that self-care, that self-love, to be taking care of you. And then when you're doing that, that's how you truly help others around you.
And it has to be authentic, right? Like we all, you know, it's a $1 billion industry, the motivational speaking, the self-help gurus. But the difference between those we resonate with and those we're like, God, that was a waste of money or I'm not going to go is generally authenticity. Right? Are they authentically doing what they say? Do they believe what they say, or are they just trying to get me to spend some money on this? And that all starts for us with knowing ourselves, right? And what circles are we in? How are we growing? And making sure that we're actually living what we're talking about to other people.
Yeah. Yeah. So when it's somebody that you love or care about who's really low vibe, low quality, do you think it's any different rather than, you know, it being a coworker or
I think sometimes it's harder because I think at times we it's easier to make excuses for family or just be like, ah, that's just the way they are. And because they're family, you think they always have a place in your life. Whereas I think we're, for the most part, a little better at setting boundaries with coworkers, or at best, you're with them a few hours a day, but they're not coming over for Christmas and Thanksgiving and birthdays. So I think families can be a little challenging, but you could say it's even more critical, right? Because they are related to you, and whether they're creating the next generation of your family through their children, or they're a parent to you. But I think it's the same principle. Like, you got to be honest with them. And then, quite honestly, if they don't want to change, they don't want to put in the work required to continue to move, you got to be able to putting up boundaries.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing for me is I'm down to help anybody that wants to work with me and work alongside me as we go on this path. But I'm not going to drag you.
Right.
And I can't do it for you, and you can't do it for me. Like, we got to be willing to meet and progress. And I think you got to be okay with that, is at some point letting some people fall to the back if they're not willing to do the work, because you can't be high vibrational and drag a bunch of other people with you. Like, it doesn't work. It's a drag for a reason. It's slowing you down.
Mm-hmm.
But just like you said, maybe if I cut them loose at this stage to become who I'm supposed to be, maybe later it'll encourage them to go again.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's a difference trying to drag people around and say, like, hey, here's where I'm going. Come with me when you're ready. Because we're always ready at different times.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people got to be okay with that. It doesn't mean I'm mean. It doesn't mean I don't love you. But I'm not going to spend if my day's 24 hours, I'm not going to give 3 of it to drag you every day.
Right.
Because that's 3 hours I'm not doing something else.
Yeah. Yeah. Opportunity cost there.
Yeah.
Well, I think we covered some really good things here with the purpose of Low Vibes. I really like the your answer of transition. I'm going to be thinking about that moving forward. So we talked about the purpose of Low Vibes being transition, growth. Usually when there's a lot of negative energy, low vibrational things happening in your life, there's a lesson in that. There's a growth in that. There's transition in life. And we also talked about how, it's okay to sometimes be in that low vibrational state, but it's not okay to stay there. What else have we got in summary, Jerry?
I would say focus, right? And to me, that's a big one. Like, being in low vibes, transition, recharge, but it also helps me focus, because a lot of times in my past that I found myself not feeling is when I get spread too thin. Maybe I say yes to things I shouldn't have said yes to. And, going through that vibration, like, helps me refocus. Like, quite honestly, going through this whole COVID thing, it helped me refocus businesses to streamline, so that if something like this happens again, I don't have as much at risk as I did this time. Yeah. It helps me streamline relationship. You know what I mean? Like, it helps you focus on, okay, what do I need to do to get back to where I want to be?
Focus, transition, growth, and lessons are the purpose of Low Vibes OPB community. That is what we believe. Let us know what your thoughts are by emailing us at onpurpose.official@gmail.com or DMing us on Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah. And then if you want to continue to go further behind the scenes, join us over on Patreon. We'd love your support. The financial opportunities over there is what helps keep us going and growing, and we're excited. We're coming up, closing out our 2nd year of doing this. So we got big plans for the future, and we could definitely use more people in the community, and we appreciate all your support from here.
Definitely. If you get at least 50 cents worth of value per episode, then you can go sign up at the minimum level and support us at $2 a month. Even that helps us drive the podcast and continue empowering ourselves and others to live life with more passion and purpose.
And remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We will see you all again next week.